Hello and welcome to our program Where God Weeps, a program where we speak about the situation of the suffering and persecuted church around the world. Since 2015, an armed fundamentalist Islamic group called Boko Haram has terrorized Christians with the main goal of Islamicize the whole of Nigeria. Since then, many attacks have been perpetrated in churches as well as countless kidnappings of religious women and men. It is my privilege to welcome again to our program Monsignor John Bakeni, Bishop of Maiduguri. Your Excellency, welcome to our program.
Thank you.
You were in our program back in 2018, and you were secretary to the Bishop of Maiduguri, and now you are the Bishop. Were you taken by surprise with this appointment by the Holy Father?
Yeah, I can say it was a bit surprising because nobody plans or prepares for this kind of responsibility. It comes as God wills and as the church also deems it fit that one should take up such a responsibility in such a difficult and challenging area. So it came as a surprise to me.
It is a very challenging area. Were you worried or afraid with such responsibility?
Yes, I have always been worried. Even when I was not consecrated as a bishop, and the worry is not so much that of hopelessness, but that of the weight of the responsibility. Because apart from the pastoral work that you have to carry out, then you have to deal with a lot of other issues that were not expected, like having to care with for the displaced persons, and then to live with such an atmosphere of fear and horror. So those were never prepared for, and so it added to the burden, and I felt it, and I still feel it anyway.
So it really, you never get used to these situations of danger and terror, particularly with the people that you care for.
No. You can never get tired or weary as long as the people are there. And as real as these sufferings are there, you can never get tired because these are issues that you face daily. And so as a human being, of course, you may feel a bit tired, but I think in the spirit you are always strong because there is always that urge and desire, to help and to assist people. So in that sense, nobody ever gets tired.
Now, since our last conversation here in the program, Your Excellency, the situation has worsened in this region?
Not as such, especially in the northeastern part of Nigeria. I must say that the security situation there has improved in terms of active attack of the terrorists. But what we are faced with now is a huge humanitarian crisis where people are returning back to their villages and towns that were once sacked and then having to rebuild their lives all over again. And as you know, most of them are going back to nothing. So they have to begin from the scratch. And so to also deal with this phase of the crisis, it's quite challenging. And we are not yet out of the woods. The needs are even becoming more real now. In the years past, we were attending to the people in terms of immediate needs of food, of medication, and then all that. But as the people now go back, what we are now experiencing is what is coming up very strongly is the issue of trauma, and that translates into so many other actions and activities. So we are also bracing up to give the people psychosocial support and then counseling so that they will be able to become more resilient and be able to pick up their lives once again.
I want to go into more detail about the work that you're doing in this regard, but just to put things in a context for our viewers and listeners. When you're saying they're coming back, it's because of what? They left their villages for what reason?
Yeah, of course, they were once displaced from their ancestral homes, and now because of the improved security, so they had to return back. Of course, they were living in camps, and they can't continue to live in those camps forever. So because of the seemingly improved security, those towns and villages that are considered safe, so people can now return back to those places.
But Your Excellency, the security that you're mentioning, is it happening because of the actual action of the government or because the attacks have diminished?
I think it's a combination of both. The government is still actively attacking where the terrorists are, and because of that kind of attack, the consequences, of course, is improved security in those areas. And then one other dimension to it is also the fact that the terrorists themselves, most of them are tired. And so, recently we have a good number of them who are willingly surrendering themselves to the government. As I speak to you now, we have over 80,000 fighters, of course, along with their wives and children, who have surrendered and are being hosted within camps within the city of Maiduguri.
Wow, and that's another challenge, Your Excellency, to reincorporate these people into society and to promote forgiveness and solidarity between them. How are you facing all this?
It is quite a challenge, and here I must say that the government is yet to get it right in terms of the components, of de-radicalization, of rehabilitation, and resettlement of these people. It's a Herculean task, I must say, and it comes with a lot of responsibilities. It is still a process, and I think it is in process as I speak to you, because a lot of stakeholders have to be brought in. When you mention, the dimension of reconciliation and then all that, this is where religious leaders and traditional leaders will have to come in. So, but where they are now is just they have surrendered and they have been brought into these camps. So the issue of community reconciliation and then all that is yet to happen. But that is what we have as part of the program that will maybe lead to the complete settlement of the people back in their towns and villages.
Now, these new developments, Your Excellency, are happening because of the elections that you had in 2023?
Not really. It may be an aspect, but as you said, it actually goes back to 2019. And 9, not just 2015. So there is a sense of fatigue, on both the part of the military and the insurgents themselves. And there are also some efforts actually put in place by trying to get the people to come out willingly. Of course, the government is pledging that, they are going to be reintegrated, they are going to be accepted, and they will rebuild their lives again, and then try to de-radicalize them so that they can give up, those ideologies. So these are the efforts that are at work right now.
One question comes to mind when you're describing this process, Your Excellency, is the weapons. Are they willing to give up their weapons or what is going to happen with that?
I think that is a very important question. We have not seen much of surrendering of weapons. And at some gatherings, we have asked the same questions. You are coming, where are the weapons? And in few instances, those who surrendered both themselves and their weapons. So, but that is something that the Nigerian military and government will have to find a way of of recuperating and then getting those weapons wherever they are hidden. Because the fear is that when they are not satisfied with the government arrangement, they will likely go back to the bush. And we have seen that on also few occasions.
Because that's why they were so dangerous, Your Excellency, because of the quality, the power of these weapons. That up to this point, we don't even know how this armament was financed.
Yeah, that has remained elusive to us even in Nigeria. Neither the government nor those who even surrendered have come out to tell us where their source of weapons have been. But we can only guess and try to put one and two together. People say, well, the fall of Libya and all that. One other issue that we also deal with is the issue of porous borders. So that makes it actually very easy for weapons to actually come in from Mali, from Libya, from Niger, down to northeastern part of Nigeria.
Another phenomenon that has been happening quite often, unfortunately, in Nigeria is the situation of the kidnappings. Originally, it was this terrorist group of Boko Haram and all that, but do you think that it has become, let's say, quote unquote, a business, just a criminal activity for people to get easy money?
Absolutely. That is a new dimension that came in about 4 or 5 years ago. It has been there. But quite recently, we have seen a lot of these incidences of kidnapping. And let me also just say that, this Boko Haram group has actually moved further to the northwest. And these are the areas where you have all these activities of kidnapping, of sometimes priests, of people. And as I speak to you now, there are still a lot number of people who are in the bush in the hands of these people. So it has become a very big cash cow because these terrorists will have to get money to fund themselves. So it is a big business because we have also seen where people were asked to pay ransom, and many have paid in order to get their loved ones out of the hands of these bandits and terrorists.
And unfortunately, it has happened with religious people, with seminarians, with nuns, with priests. What is the church doing about it?
Yeah, well, there is very little we can do in terms of securing ourselves. We have pledged our security into the hands of the government. But what the church has done is actually to call the attention of both the clergy and the laity, one, to be vigilant, and then to take some measures, like you have to avoid maybe late travels, you have to be sensitive, with the environment, so you have to know who your neighbor is. And if there is a new person within the neighborhood, you have to report. So these are the measures we can only take, to create this awareness and to be vigilant. But when they come, we do not have the firepower to match them, and that is why we have become victims so many times.
Recently we participated, we collaborated with a campaign where part of one of the goals was to provide vehicles to the clergy, because it is safer for them to move in a car, in a van, than in motorcycles, because apparently many incidents happen to religious people that were traveling in motorcycles. These kind of measures, are they really helping to secure these people?
They are helpful. Most of the vehicles we actually use are not new. So if you don't have a good car, the tendency is that it might break somewhere in the
middle
bush.
of the road.
Yeah, and that exposes you to and then all that. So that campaign, I think it is very, very important. Well, some of us are beneficiaries. When you have a new car, it gives you that confidence that you can travel from one point to another either for your pastoral, work and then all that. So it's quite helpful, and it's a bit difficult maybe to shoot, when somebody is in the car than when he's on a motorcycle, or, and then all that. So it's quite helpful, and I'm sure it has contributed a lot towards the safety of many.
Your Excellency, now let's go back to what you mentioned earlier, and is this work about psychological treatment, the healing of these traumatized people. What are the church efforts on this regard?
Yeah, here, first of all, I want to thank the Church in Need, because through their help and support, we have a center now that is coming up within the city of Maiduguri. And even before the center, the building came up, these efforts are already on the ground. So the church is deeply involved in trying to help and to assist people, come out of this trauma. Because some of them lost their husbands or their wives or their children. Some of them have lost all their means of livelihood, and then so it's in different stages. So the church has identified this as a major need that our people need now as we come out of this active war, and people begin to now settle back in their villages. And as I said, when people are traumatized, it translates into so many other things. Families may not be at peace. There are a lot of issues. So the church is deeply involved, and thank God we have a priest who is trained in clinical psychology, and he has a big number in terms of workforce who are sent to various communities to intervene. So, but the needs are so huge. The government is also doing so much. The international organizations are also there. But because of the volume of the number of people that have been affected, we are talking of well over 2 million people who have gone through all this. So we are contributing our own bit. And let me just say, we're not just taking care of Catholics or Christians. I mean, it's every human being, whether Muslims, whoever that is in need.
Monsignor, share with us some of these situations with children, for instance. What kind of experiences have they lived and been traumatized by?
Yeah, I think unfortunately, in moments like this, moments of crisis and war, women and children are always at the receiving end.
Right.
And when I look at so many of them, it touches me, because most of them were even born within the years of this war and then all that. So all that they have experienced is nothing but violence. And their future is mortgaged and is uncertain, to a large extent. And this is another area again where the church and of course the government and international organizations are also working very hard to see that the children, first of all, are safe and they are well taken care of in terms of their feeding and well-being, but more importantly, to see that they engage them, in schools so that they can begin to learn and then be able to develop themselves. So there are a lot of efforts, and I'm glad that the church is part of this process.
Your Excellency, something that is very impressive to me when we've had the opportunity to send our teams to your wonderful country, it's the aliveness of faith, the testimony that your people are giving to the world, living under these conditions. It's amazing, really. The martyrs, because I think they deserve this term, martyrs, from your people, are really the roots of a very vibrant church. So now tell me about the bright side of the church in Nigeria, because we're always talking about these terrible problems and situations that they're true, unfortunately. And it's important that our viewers, our audience know about it. But there is also this other side that it's really amazing, Your Excellency.
And that is true. You know, our own experience, as bad as it may be, you know, it has actually brought the best out of us in terms of our
That's
faith
right.
and in terms of our religious commitments. Before this crisis, of course, there have been always one form of conflict or the other, but the Boko Haram issue, it was like a wake-up call, you know, despite the losses, despite the hardship, you know, and all that. At some point, even as leaders, we were discouraged that our people were going to give up. And all we see, you know, coming out of these ashes, you know, so to say, is nothing but a new, vibrant church. And it is not something that is planned. It's not something that is calculated. It's something that manifests in our liturgy, in our gathering, and in the way we do things, despite the dangers that hover around us. And I think for me, this is the testimony that we have to give the world.
Yes.
For their prayers, for their support, and for their solidarity. We do not take it as a form of pride, because I think it is God at work, that in the midst of pain, in the midst of suffering, you know, our faith is purified and tested.
For you as a shepherd of souls, what does it mean to you personally?
For me, it only confirms my faith and belief, not just in God, but in the power of God. That is what I see. It confirms my faith, that hope is one of the strongest pillars you can hold on to. All might be lost, but once you have hope, then you have the strength and the grace to go on.
And this is something that is not, you were mentioning earlier, Your Excellency, this is not improvised. This comes from a trajectory, a work that has been happening. I mean, definitely it's the Holy Spirit, obviously, but there is a work that is giving fruit now.
Yeah, and that is true. You know, it's spontaneous, and not just for us as leaders. You know, the lay people challenge us on so many occasions. When we see their own vibrancy, we see their own commitment, we see their own faith, then we can't help it but just to be strong and to encourage them all the more to hold on to it. And in the midst of all these experiences, we have also, personally, I have come to see the vanity of material things, of some of the things we worry about. All that you need actually in life is the basics. And I think this is also another lesson and experience that is coming out of this conflict. And I think it's also the testimony of many of my brothers and sisters, that you live simply.
We like to end our conversations with the bishops always asking, what can we do, Your Excellency? How can we help? And I don't mean necessarily the organization, but the universal church.
Yeah, first of all, is to pray for us, which you have been doing and they have been doing. And we live literally on the wings of the prayers of the faithful from all over the world. And that is why this testimony is not just ours. Secondly, is to be able to tell our stories. Because for most of us who live, especially in northern Nigeria, we do not have this voice. So we need people, to tell our own story. Thirdly, of course, because of what we go through, we also need material support in terms of funds so that we can rebuild our lives once again, especially our places of worship, and then, of course, to be able to put our children in school so that they can have a secure future as well.
Your Excellency, unfortunately, we run out of time, but thank you so much for this opportunity to get to know more about the beauty and the suffering of your church.
Thank you.
And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being with us in another program of Where God Weeps. If you want to know more about the work that the church is doing in Nigeria, we encourage you to contact the information at the end of this program. Thank you, and God bless.